Hi, I'm Carolyn Dube, and welcome to July's Colorful Gelli Print Party. Today I'm actually prepping some of the papers I'm going to use on the Gelli plate. These are a heavier paper, a watercolor paper, simply because that's what I had within reach, so that's what I'm using. I'm taking gesso and I'm scraping it onto it. You could use a brush. I just hate cleaning out brushes, so whenever I can use a catalyst tool, I do, because since it's made out of silicone, I don't have to really wash it. But I'm just putting a thin layer of gesso on there. That's kind of a fairly smooth layer of gesso. Now I'm going to show you that you can put a very messy layer of gesso on there. You don't have to be neat and tidy because it's going to give you a slightly different texture in what we're going to do with it. So really there's kind of no way to do this wrong. Slap some gesso on some paper. You can do it neatly and precisely, or you can make a crazy old mess with it. It is completely up to you. Again, there's really no right or wrong way, because this is about playing and experimenting and having fun. I'm using the 12 by 14 Gelli plate today, but you can use any size Gelli plate for this. I've got some yellow acrylic paint that I'm squirting on, and I'm going to brayer it around. For this one, I'm actually building a background color on the Gelli print. So there I am cleaning off the brayer. What I'm doing is just taking a solid print with the gessoed paper. I want the gesso side down. That's very important. I need the gesso under there. And I am just going to take a solid yellow print. And you can see all the texture showing up there. That'll be very nice. Still got plenty of paint on there, so I'm going to grab another gessoed paper and I'm going to put gesso side down. So I'm picking up just a solid background of yellow. Now I did give my yellow papers plenty of time to dry, so they've been drying for about an hour. So they are completely dry. That's very important that they are completely dry. So I've got a contrasting color here, decided to go with orange. And the stencil I'm going to be using today is called Random Circles, and it is by Mary Beth Shaw, who is the Stencil Girl. And I'm going to take the yellow paper and I'm just going to push it down. And very handily, it actually fits the size of this paper perfectly. Didn't plan that, but I call that a nice bonus. And so there I've picked up a lot of the circles. That first print is usually very bright and dark because you've got lots of paint on there. Now, normally I would take another print at this point, but I really just want to get the paint out of those circles, so I grab another print from who knows when, and I'm really just looking to suck up that paint. I want the paint off of there. I want to get as much paint out of those circles that I can. And you know what? That's not enough paint coming up for me, so I'm actually going to wipe some of the paint off of there. I have an old paint rag in the studio. You can use a paint rag, you can use a paper towel, you can use a baby wipe. Any of those things will get the paint up. But this is what I wanted, all those circles. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the other yellow paper, and I'm going to put that down and pick up this image. And while you're waiting for the print to show up here, remember there's a link party all month long for you to share what you make with the Gelli plate over on my blog, acolorfuljourney.com. Now as I pull this up, you'll see that it's similar to the other print, but it's a little bit different because it's pulling up different parts of the stencil. So two looks from one stencil. But we're not done here. If you've seen many of my videos or read much on my blog, acolorfuljourney.com, you know I love color. So I'm going to add a third color here, and I'm going for the bright pink that's really going to make this all pop. And by the way, I did not let the orange dry very long, so I did the orange and I right away went to the pink. So now I've got the stencil. I'm going to put it down there, and I'm going to grab one of the prints and I'm going to try and flip it over in a similar place. It's going to be in about the same place, but it's not going to be exact. But I did want to make sure the circles were kind of going the same direction. So now when I pull it up, you can see how it's slightly offset, and you can see bits of the orange and the yellow and the hot pink. And I'm going to do the same kind of thing where I need to get all of that, I want all of that paint out of those circles. So I am just kind of doing it on a throwaway sheet there that who knows what that print will end up becoming, but really I'm just trying to get the paint out of those circles. If I can't get enough of it off with paper, then I'm going to take a towel. Again, anything. This happens to be an old t-shirt that's my paint rag. You can use paper towels, baby wipes, anything to get that up, because what you want left is just those circles. So now I'm going to take the other print and I'm going to line it up, and I'm having a hard time figuring out which way I had it, so it's taken me a minute to make sure it's oriented so that it overlaps in a similar place. I know very well it's never going to line up exactly, and I actually like that. I don't want it to be exact, I want it to be near. So perfectly imperfect. When I lift this up, you're going to see that it was close, but it didn't quite make it. And you can see how it's slightly offset, allowing some of the yellow to show with the pink and the orange. So now what I'm going to do is lay the stencil right back on top. I've got a wet paper towel here. You could use a wet cloth, a baby wipe, just about anything will work with this. And what I'm doing is selectively rubbing off some of the paint. Because the orange paint is fresh, it comes up pretty easily. The yellow paint, because I let it dry completely, that takes a little more elbow grease to get up. I mean, not that much more, but a little bit more, so I can actually control if I want to go to yellow or all the way down to the gesso that's white. This does not work very well on paper that has not been gessoed, so the gesso is really important for this part. This is an extremely forgiving process because you can easily lift up the stencil and see what you've got going on underneath and how it looks. Then you can decide to take off other bits here or there. It's really up to you. Now the paint is starting to dry, so I'm rubbing a little bit harder, and what that means is I'm getting some of the water to squirt out. As it squirts out, if it gets the paper a little bit wet, it's really not that big a deal because the paint's getting close to dry. I am going to use a paper towel though to pull off any excess water when I'm all done. So now for this one, this is the second print, and it's been sitting a little bit longer because I've been working on the other print. So for this one I am using a baby wipe. Because of the alcohol that's in, or I guess it's really a Lysol cleaning wipe, the alcohol does take up paint very quickly. Very, very, very quickly. So you'll use a different kind of touch with that than you do with just a paper towel. But again, because this one's been sitting longer, it's not as fresh a paint, so I could either scrub really hard or I can just get one of the cleaning wipes and take up the color that way. Same exact technique, whether using a paper towel or a wipe or a cleaning rag. Really, it's whatever you want to use to rub on it. One of the things that I really like about this technique is, yes, I used 3 colors on this, but because of the rubbing and the way the colors are sort of mixing within the circles, I've actually got a lot more than 3 colors here. I've got the texture from the Gelli plate and parts of it, and then I'm rubbing it off selectively. So it gives me a lot more variation. So this print really called to me for some journaling and some writing. And I started filling in around the circles. Thought this would be just a quick little something I could just get going right here. Yeah, there are a lot of circles on this page, just so you know. I'm actually not going to make you watch me write them all in. This was just kind of my random journaling as I put it on here. So it gives you an idea of how it worked. I used the Energel Pentel pen. I got it at the hardware store. Goodness no, at the office supply store. And I just kept turning this. It actually ended up being pretty meditative by the time I was done because, like I said, there are a lot of circles on this thing. But you can stop over on my blog at colorfuljourney.com and you can see the completed page. And I have photos of both papers that I created so you can see what those look like. Hop on over to colorfuljourney.com and join the party by linking up what you're making with the Gelli plate. I can't wait to see what you're creating.